the following sequence, we are going to identify what type of sequence it is. Is it representing arithmetic or geometric sequence, or neither? Find a term name, explicit formula, and 3 terms after, in this case, after term 1, because that's the only one we're given. So, geometric sequences have common ratios. Arithmetic sequences have common differences. And this one, we see that R means it has a common ratio, so this is geometric. And if we want to find a specific term, we can, like term 11, then we want the explicit formula to do that. But I guess we can also write the sequence out. So we're going to use what we know to be a recursive definition, and that's kind of the thing that we do by intuition, that we look at it and we say, okay, if the ratio is 1/2, then 16 times 1/2 is 8. And what we just did in our heads was we said the second term, the term that comes after 16, is just 16 times the ratio. And that's what the recursive formula does. And if you were to write it out, it would look like this. Any term is just the term before it, okay? If it's the nth term, then n minus 1 is the term before it, times a ratio. Okay, that is the recursive formula. Okay, so times a half, times a half, times a half, we have written now the 3 terms in the sequence. And now it's time for us to find the 11th term. So we're going to write another formula. We could continue, so if this is term 4, we could continue multiplying by 1/2, and eventually we would get to that term. But we're not going to do that. We're going to write an explicit formula. And for geometric sequences, the explicit formula is the 0th term times the ratio to the nth power. And there is another way to write it, but that is the method that we have used this whole time, so we'll just stick with it. All right, so in our formula, we know that n is 11, because we want the 11th term. Not sure what a sub 0 is right now. That's what would go in this blank here. But we do know that the ratio is 1/2, and we're raising that to the 11th power. Okay. What would a sub 0 be? Well, if we're multiplying by 1/2 to get from term to term going forward, then to go backwards, get to a 0, we're going to divide by 1/2. Dividing by 1/2, that's the same as multiplying by 2. If you were to look this direction, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So 16 times 2 would get us 32, and that is a sub 0. It's what goes in there. All right, and when we evaluate that, okay, so when you evaluate that, let me pull up a calculator here, maybe you're going to end up with a decimal. So here, if I did 32 times, you could do a 0.5 in here, or 1/2. If you do the fraction, I would always recommend putting that in parentheses, and you get 0.015625. And that is an accurate number, but we would rather have that as a fraction. So I'm going to hit math and then enter twice, and you see it is 1/64. So term 11 is 1/64.